So when I say I hate your fantasy world, I'm not talking to you in particular. Probably. Hopefully. But there are some things that when I see them in a fantasy world, at best, they annoy me slightly. At worst, they piss me the fuck off and I want to burn the book and the world to the ground. I love a good magic system as much as the next person. But if you're gonna have a magic system, actually have a magic system fully incorporated into the world itself. If there are wizards who can throw fireballs, what's the government doing to mitigate damage? What are city planners doing to make sure that the people are protected? Same thing with superhero movies. If we all know that superheroes exist, why are we still building these flimsy-ass buildings that can be knocked over by one person? Why is there not insurance? Why are there not researchers looking into more stable and sturdy building methods? Or, I don't know, make shit out of rubber. I'm a writer, so I get it. Sometimes you need people to be stupid for plot reasons. But as a consumer of stories, I come into it with the assumption that this world has existed long before the story has begun. So if the king has been a moron this entire time, what does that say about the people? How are things getting done? How do these people still have faith and confidence in this person as a leader? And if they don't, why are they there? Why are we still in a monarchy if nobody actually gives a shit about the king or how dumb he is? And I say king, could be queen, I don't know, pope, whatever. If this person is just a figurehead and we all know this, why are they still there? There should have been a revolution or two. At least two. I've never been a big fan of zombies to begin with. I just don't like the idea. But then when I learned about the origin of the myth, it kind of bugs me even more now. To grossly oversimplify, the idea of a zombie came from slaves in Haiti who were afraid that even after death they wouldn't be free. They would be forced to reanimate and have their souls locked in this rotting corpse as they continue to work for the slave owners. Yet, Hollywood took that idea and turned it into a horror trope. Now, I'm not saying that, no one can write a zombie story. Do whatever the hell you want. I'm just not gonna read it, especially if it's just white zombie all over again. I get that I'm kind of a nerd. Not kinda. I'm a really big fucking nerd. So I understand why most people wouldn't want to dive as deep as I do when it comes to world building. But it kind of annoys me that all fantasy world building, well, I say all, but most fantasy world building never looks at ethnicities. It's always just take a real world ethnicity, but don't use the real world term for it. A person can have up tilted eyes and, I don't know, a wide nose, but don't call them Asian. We all know. We all fucking know. Why? Either just call them Asian or come up with another way. Actually, no, scratch that. Don't come up with another way to describe it. Instead, create your own. Elves were created. Dwarves were created. They all have their specific things that we understand. That feature belongs to an elf. Why not do the same thing with humans? Your fantasy world has a different geography than ours. It has a different history than ours. It has different geology, terrain. Where did these people migrate from? Where did monkeys first turn into humans? How did they go from there? What environmental features did they have to adapt to, and how did that shape their features? Those are questions that we should be asking ourselves about world building, and yet no one does. It's just, oh, it's a black person, but don't call them black. Well, I say that, but that's actually a very rare case. Now, I understand this one is a bit out there. But as a former stripper, I would like to personally tell you that sex work is very profitable. It's not always fun, sure, but no one forced me to be a stripper. I went and did it on my own. Granted, I was young and other adjectives. But why is it that in fantasy worlds, it's like prostitutes are dirt poor and just gross? Like, do you know how much work it takes to be a sex worker? Do you know how much care and attention you have to give yourself, your body, which is your main implement for your career? It makes no sense to me that you would go to a brothel, even if it's in a poor village. And yeah, I get it. Sometimes you get when the getting's good. I get that. But if you go to any major city that has a brothel, those people are gonna look good. And I say people because it's not only women. It just bothers me. And it's a symptom of a wider issue when it comes to sex work and people's perception of it. And yeah, that's a whole can of worms though. But really, give your sex worker some pride. Give me some pretty prostitute. They don't all have to be missing teeth and speak coarsely and like, have you seen a high-end escort? Bonus, geishas were not prostitutes. They were entertainers. There is a difference. Moving on. I feel like we should all know this by now, but no group is a monolith. So making monsters in your world just automatically be the bad guys, it's not a good look. Besides, monsters can be hot too. Well, being hot doesn't mean you're not evil. See every villain in YA. But that's besides the point. My point is, not all monsters have to be evil. Like, give us some nuance. Give us some backstories. Just because you're a werewolf doesn't mean you automatically want to rip off someone's face. Besides, in most cases, I'd probably take a werewolf over a human any day. Does that make me a monster? Well, that's not really a good metric to go off of. Whatever. When I was younger, I had a nightmare about the Catholic Church. So, I already have mixed feelings towards the institution. Yet so many religions and fantasy worlds are just shiny Catholicism. It's Catholicism, but they have a lot more gold and swirly bits. It just makes no sense to me because Abrahamic religions are based on a specific set of myths. And yes, I say myths because I'm talking about religion. Don't go there. They're based on a specific set of myths that don't really carry over to a fantasy world. Especially if that fantasy world has magic and or zombies. So, making your fantasy religion just Catholicism but with the serial numbers filed off makes no sense, and it completely throws me out of the world. Also, I hate it. So a lot of these things could actually stem from one, and it's the thing that bugs me the most about fantasy worlds and the stories that I read or watch, and it's the lack of history. There's no basis for half the things that are going on in the world. Sure, the author might know it, And of course, there's all, the writing advice that says don't throw all of your world building in at the beginning. Nobody wants to hear about all of the history and backstories. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. House of the Dragon is a whole fucking prequel that's just nothing but world building. I mean, sure, there's some fighting and dragons and stuff, but it's based on Fire and Blood, which is literally just two guys going on about what happened 300 years before Game of Thrones. It's actually my favorite book now because I want to know the history. I want to know, where did these people come from? Where did these animals come from? How did this glibberbob evolve from a tadpole? How did we get there? That's what I want to know. I mean, I don't need it in the story. I don't need someone to, well, as you may know, don't do that. But there at least needs to be some hint of a historical backing behind the world itself. Otherwise, it's just all floating there. And yeah, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe none of these things are deal breakers. Like, you have your own opinions. Tell me about them. Go ahead. It's just that these are the kinds of things that make me not care about a world. And aside from the characters and the plot itself, the world is the main reason that I go to a fantasy story to begin with. So if I don't care about it, what else is there?